Okay, welcome to this module where I'm going to be diving into the fear of failure and layers of how inadequacy and feelings of inadequacy can tie into this, and how we get to alchemize this. We get to alchemize the fear of failure, ultimately tuning into there's no such thing. And I know that can be a really activating or triggering thing to hear, especially when we really, really want the thing that we're seeking. We're like, of course, there could be failure because I really want this, or my happiness depends on it, or all these things that we have attached to the thing that we're seeking. So I understand that it can feel really triggering to hear that. And I'm not saying lean back and let it all just go the way that it's going and you don't get to have any impact on it, but there's ultimately no such thing as failure. And so when we start to alchemize this and just work with it in a different way, we get to be present to the fear of failure, but we get to anchor in and attune to something that is much more empowering. We get to work with patience in a different way and really cultivate a relationship with divine timing and perfect timing. And when we move from that place, the way that we create, the way that we show up for that what we want, that which we desire, totally changes. So the fear of failure and like our inadequacy that's connected to that, our fear of inadequacy, a wounding of inadequacy, can go hand in hand. And we ultimately get to alchemize it, work with it in a different way, and lean into divine timing and co-creating from a different place. So we're not just like, oh, whatever, the timing will happen when it happens, and I'm not going to do anything. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in not taking action. Sometimes there's times where rest is required, but action is required. Action is required to create the life you want. No doubt about it. Courage requires action sometimes. And so it's about dancing between the two. So let's start by taking a moment to just consider, I want you to consider, what is your relationship to endurance? What is your relationship to staying the course? How many times, with no shame, it's just a question for inquiry. We have to dive into these things if we want to shift anything. We have to dive into the patterns that we've been showing up with. So, how many times have you let go of something just before it was going to become the thing? How many times have you held back from a little bit of discomfort before you were actually about to push through into your personal best in something? And it's not to say that we need to stay and suffer. It's not about suffering long enough to make something worthwhile or to ultimately get the thing that we want, because we're not really supposed to be suffering. But we do need to cultivate a relationship with endurance, persistence, devotion, dedication, trust of timing. And I think that so much of our fear of failure comes from thinking that everything needs to be delivered now. And I'm guilty of it. Like, I'm literally guilty of it. These overnight successes we see, just, quantum leaps that people talk about. And I've managed to map and break down these things. Quantum leaps, yeah, they can happen overnight. And yeah, we can really honestly skip timelines, but they're rooted in micro moments that add up over time. And then those adding up over time can really allow us to quantum leap and like skip a bunch of timelines. Yet it doesn't just happen when you wake up, think of the thing, and the next day it's done. And so I really want us to really be conscientious, like bring your consciousness to the contemplation. The honest contemplation is, what is my relationship to endurance? What is my relationship to dedication and devotion? I have had to call myself out on this shit so many times. But when I'm calling myself out on it, you get to be curious. Why is it that I don't stick to the plan? Is the plan ridiculous? Is the plan like, am I going too fast, too much, too soon? are my expectations unrealistic? Let's say from like going to no breathwork practice to thinking I'm going to do it 7 days a week for 45 minutes every single day. For me, that doesn't work. So it's like you get to titrate into things. So I've had to call myself out on this multiple times with curiosity. But there are things that I have incredible endurance and devotion to because I choose to put it on the altar. I choose to put it on the forefront of my life because it matters that much. And so really getting curious, bringing your consciousness towards the contemplation of what is my relationship to endurance and timing. So much, like, so going back to what I was saying before, is so much of our discomfort comes from the fact that some things take time, and our society wants everything faster, 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 yesterday. Delivery, if it's not delivered today, like if Amazon doesn't deliver today, it's like, can't wait for it. We want every need and desire to be satiated so quickly that we're forgetting that not even the appreciation comes from the due diligence sometimes, the true appreciation of how magnificent it is to arrive at a temporary destination point. That magnificence comes from the sacred act of devoting yourself to something and cultivating what is needed, tilling the soil, planting the seeds, watering it, nourishing it, honoring the seasons, and then watching it blossom. That's a sacred act of creation. And we've become so disconnected from that act that we want everything now. And it's not our fault. It's not your fault. There is nothing here that I am ever bringing forward to create any kind of blame or shame. And if that is present for you at all, just take note of it, because that's really interesting material that could be residing somewhere in the system. Where was I always blamed for something in my life? Follow that thread. But yeah, there's no blame here. It's just that we have lost connection with the sacred act of creation and the time that certain things take. There is a process. It's not, oh, I have to pay my dues and so I have the thing. It's just the way it works. It's just the law of the universe. It's just the law that it takes time. So part of our society has contributed to this. Our sick society has contributed to the way that our mind thinks that things should show up for us. And how can we bring our consciousness, our awareness to this to help the mind shift the story, to help the nervous system shift the story? Everybody's a master of something because they've taken a weekend course of it. People throw languaging of certain healing modalities around without truly understanding it. People want to be the best at something without actually paying the due diligence that it's required. It's a bit of a lost art. So the first step is creating contemplation around the relationship with endurance, dedication, devotion, and timing. These would be great to just contemplate, also journal around, whatever floats your boat here, but really get honest with yourself. Fear of failure. Just 1 second here. So the fear of failure is a really big one. For the reasons that I've just mentioned around society, but also because it's in our DNA, our ancestral lineage. Our ancestors were afraid of failing, but failure for our ancestors meant ultimately not living. They were afraid of not being able to gather the food they needed, to hunt, to prepare themselves for winter, to survive the elements. And it was a very valid fear that they carried. And in human design, this would be like fear that's coming from the spleen center, like the energetic splenic center in the chart. But we've moved away from that being our creation point. So creation point as in the deciding factor of why we're doing something in our lives. We're not creating all of our lives from that place. Of course, we need to survive. We need to put food on the table. We need to pay our bills. We need to have a house. Yes. But our consciousness and the way that we live life has expanded so much since that time that the goal here isn't just for survival, it's to thrive. It's to experience life in all the ways that our soul contracted itself to come here and experience life. And so when we're allowing this fear from our ancestral lineage to rule the show without updating it, upgrading it, reminding us that like the reptilian brain isn't the only thing here that's guiding us forward. When we're trying to create from that place, we're like completely missing the point, one of everything that's available to us here. And we're going to be creating from a very limited place. So for us, how do I want to bring this forward? Yes, for us, the fear of survival and the way that our ancestors worked with it isn't the same. But the way that it translates into society now can really be like the fear of not having enough money, essentially a fear of not being resourced. And I'm not going to dive into mapping the fear around money in this course so much because it's such a bigger topic that can hold so much charge for so many people for so many different reasons. And perhaps another course will come forward around that. But know that it is a very real thing. Like our fear of survival right now is very much linked to money. But when we get to ultimately understand that money is a frequency and money is an energetic that we can open ourselves up to receive more of when we clear the pathways in our system that are telling us that it's not possible. When we upgrade our nervous system, essentially, our co-creative abilities completely shift and we open ourselves up to receiving more abundance. That's the Coles Notes version of what I'll dive into today. But we basically want to take like all of the fears that live within that survival DNA that runs through us and remind the system that it's not here to fight for its survival in the same way. We don't need to worry so much. Yes, people for sure are dealing with survival issues in this world. I am not present to that. Those people are likely not watching this course for the reasons that you are. If you've purchased this course, you've able to afford it, even if there's a payment plan going on here, there's enough resourcing in your system that likely some of your needs are being met right now that you're not actually afraid that in the immediate future, you're not going to be able to eat. Those people that have those fears would not be working with me in this way yet. Those people are working in a different level of their healing journey. So it's not that I'm bypassing it. It's not that I'm not present to it, but it's not what we're talking about here. So society has played a huge role in kind of piggybacking on this instinctual fear that we have carried in our systems around survival. Because if we are in fear around survival, and we are told all the ways that we need to survive or the ways that we need to do things, we basically get stuck into a loop of fear and consumption. And fear and consumption works really well for many governments, many businesses in our society. Because if we're buying from a place of fear, we're just going to keep staying in the loop. We're not going to liberate ourselves and we're going to continue to consume whatever we're told to consume in order for us to stay safe, to stay alive, to stay protected, whatever it is. And so I also just want you to become mindful about like, where is this fear and consumption, perhaps loop playing out in your life? And it's not serving you. So I'm going to give you a practice that really helps regulate the system around fear of failure, shifting from fear of survival truly into the fact that you are surviving, and you get to thrive. So the tapping practice that I'm going to give you in this module, I highly encourage you to use it. Again, tuning back into your relationship with dedication and devotion and endurance. Like, do not do this one time and expect your world to shift. It doesn't work like that. It requires some dedication and devotion. So really tuning back, if it could be daily, it'll be short. I'll make it short. But if it's daily, amazing. If it's weekly, amazing. If it's monthly, amazing. But let's not just do it once and think that it'll shift. So it's really time to break down the story that, like the nervous system might be telling you that you're really here to like I might die. I might die today if I don't get the thing. If my success doesn't happen today, I'm not going to be okay. Bringing in the relationship of timing and how that might be playing out and contributing to an over stressed out system, because the story is like, it needs to happen now, 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 now. But when you're wanting it to happen now, you're not honoring the creation process, the path that it actually might take. So it doesn't mean that fear is not going to show up, but we no longer allow it to dictate what we are doing. We don't stop pursuing the thing because we're afraid of failure. We stop making fear of failure be the creative spark. And instead, the creative spark comes from a different place, which I'll get to. The creative spark comes, the desire is the initiating force. And the fear of failure can come up, and we meet it with this, and we show up from a different way, rather than the fear of failure being what either creates us to do something. So we're trying to move from fear, creating from fear isn't sustainable. It's also like in a distortion field, because we're not actually going to be tuning into what our true desires are when we're creating from fear or scarcity or distortion. So we want to create from the divine spark, create from the knowing of something that's coming through, and then meet the fear with that in different ways. Because we can't entirely get rid of fear from in the beginning. Think about it this way. Unless you are superhuman. And there might be areas in your life where you're not afraid to do things. There's certain areas where I have way more resiliency already built up in those areas, and other areas where I'm certainly more afraid. And so I can gather evidence from those areas. I can also like work with a specific area that's limiting me a little bit more. But to rid ourselves of fear around the areas that we're fearful in the beginning will be challenging, because we almost need to build up the resiliency. We need to build up the evidence journal for our systems to know that we don't need to be fearful. So in the beginning, there may be fear present. And given that you know that, given that you're hearing it now, there is going to be a potentiality that fear is present. And given that you know that, what are you going to choose? What are you going to choose even if fear is present? You might fail. That is a possibility. And you not failing is also a possibility. And whichever one you orient to will be the one that takes the lead. It's as simple as that. Even though we have so many things in the way that don't allow us to think it's as simple as that, it is as simple as that. So, this brings in like patterns of the past again. That module is golden. Where are the patterns of the past dictating what you think is possible for you? What storyline are you orienting towards? But given the fact that fear could be present, and then think about the thing that you want to do, the life you want to create, the way you want to move, the way you want to show up. Think about not doing the thing. Let fear win the game for a minute. I'm so afraid of failing that I'm actually not going to do the thing. Go into that storyline, play it out for yourself. Execute that whole thing in your mind. I'm so afraid I'm going to let failure, the fear of failure, win and take over for a second here. What does that make me feel? Zero judgment. Because if it actually feels like a relief, if it's like, yeah, I actually am glad because I didn't even really want to do that thing, or it doesn't feel that aligned, or blah, 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 whatever it is, that is very, very good information. But if you play with the fear of failure and you allow it to win, what does that mean and how does that feel? And if it feels like crushing, if there's a lot of resistance or sadness or what's the word I'm looking for? A real like deflation in the system, pay attention to that. Because for me, especially let's say my business is a really easy example as it was evolving and growing and as I was landing on like my real zone of genius, there was times that I absolutely considered giving up. But when I would play that storyline out, it was not a possibility. There was literally no possibility that I could feel good about not continuing to pursue creating this. The nuance that I needed was like, it's just going to continue evolving and growing as I do, as my gifts come online, as I start to fine tune and discover the way that I like to work. It's an evolution. And the more I could lean into that, the easier it became. But failure was not an option. Like there was literally no such thing. It was just evolution. So I really encourage you to go through this visualization exercise of like, I will let fear win. So it doesn't have to resist and push so hard. It's like, all right, let's explore this possibility. And when you explore it, see what comes through. Because it's really good information if you can't imagine a possibility where you let it go, where you give up. Then failure is not an option. Like it's actually just not part of the timeline. So you keep going. And honestly, we could end this whole thing there. It's like there's no option for failure. So I'm just going to keep going. But what I'm going to get nuanced about is like, where's my energy going? Where are my thoughts going? Am I putting my energy behind the right action in this moment? Am I missing steps? Am I not creating the foundation? Like we get to change the way we're showing up for it. We don't just keep showing up for something that's not working over and over and over and over and over again without shifting it, if it's actually causing us some suffering. Okay, I feel like there's so many tributaries that I could take this down. So I really just need to stay focused on what I'm here to speak on right now. So bringing it back, playing out that that timeline where you actually toss the towel in and see how that lands. If it feels good, actually take that as information and figure out why and maybe what's happening there. And if it doesn't, then there's no option for failure and we keep going. The other piece to that visualization that can be a real beauty to dive into is, what are you defining success as? Like, what's the end point that you're defining success as? Because if it becomes like too laser focused, let's say on like a particular dollar amount or one piece of the puzzle that you're just like, that's the thing. It can be the thing. You will get there. But you are missing perhaps the success pit stops along the way that need your awareness, that need your consciousness on them as you're moving before you get there. So you're missing all these success markers, all the signs of progress along the way because you're just too laser focused over here. And hold that vision, but hold it lightly, hold it loosely, because it might actually shift. It might actually shift slightly as you move and as you pick up different success markers along the way that you didn't even know what they were. And as you have a direct experience, as you have a somatic experience of what they feel like, you're like, oh my gosh, this is actually golden. I didn't know this part would feel this good. I didn't know this nugget would come in, and it can help shift that bigger vision. So hold it loosely, hold it lightly. This is what's happened to me so many times along the way, that I've met something along the path, like so serendipitously or so synchronistically, and it's shifted something. Let's just even say my work. I'm like, I didn't even know I'd love this so much. And this bigger vision has changed slightly. Not the overarching way that will make me feel, but the finer details of it have shifted. So what are you defining success as? And how might that be limiting you? And how might that be connected to the story that you're telling yourself about failure and your fear of failure? You might be looking at it way too binary. So can you upgrade? Can you evolve the way that you're looking at it? Can you zoom up, zoom out, and just look at it from a broader perspective for a little bit? and then zoom back into the specifics. It's a dance between these two. Okay. All right. My dog has arrived here. So then the next piece that gets to be woven in here, especially around success, is the other layer that we bring in when we're thinking about the fear of failure and how freaking scary that can be, is because we are assigning too much meaning to the thing. We're assigning too much meaning to the thing and connecting it to too much about who we are. We're connecting it way too much to our worthiness, to making it mean something about our purpose in this lifetime. And so ultimately, the fear of failure then becomes hooked into this fear of having no purpose because we've assigned our purpose to the thing. And so we think we're purposeless without it, or until it arrives. We think that we're not worthy or valuable enough until we've executed this thing because we're trying to prove ourselves through the pursuit of whatever X is. So taking some good time to really consider how much meaning have I assigned to the thing that I'm seeking? How much meaning have I attached to it about who I am as a person? And again, I teach this because I know it. And I've had to unhook how much meaning about myself I'd put into my work, even though this is my soul's work. And there's absolutely nothing else in my life that I want to do or that I will do. The way in which I'll do it will change throughout my life. But I know my purpose and what I'm here to anchor in for people, but I could anchor that in without my business. If my business flops, I can still hold my purpose, which is reminding people that they're divinely precious and they're here to live life in a way that honors that. And I'm here to help them human, because being a human is how you have your spiritual experience in this life, through the temple that is this earth. And if my business didn't work and I wasn't being paid money for what I do, I would still get to hold my purpose, even if I was doing another job, even if I was back being a barista at Starbucks, I would still get to have my purpose. And so I had to unhook those things so that they could walk really beautifully side by side, but that I got to serve my business in a different way. About not being afraid of failing at my purpose, because my purpose is. My purpose is who I be, and then I get to bring that into the business. And then that becomes like, wow. But I'm not proving my purpose, or I'm not afraid of failing at my purpose because I need my business to validate my purpose. And then once I unhook it, I can bring them back together in a really aligned and powerful and magnetic way. But there's not like an unhealthy codependency between the two. So the fear of having no purpose can really be woven into this fear of failure. And I want you to take some time to contemplate this as well, because you cannot fail at life, and you can't fail at your purpose if you show up as you. You just can't. So unseparate, unhook these two together, the fear of failure around whatever it is you're pursuing, and how that might be connected to what you're making your purpose be. You can bring your purpose into the thing. Absolutely. They can be deeply aligned, but they're not the same thing. So you can really only fail when you cut yourself off from the bigger picture, from the whole cosmic plan, the flow of where life is wanting to take you. You know, the chaos, it could seem chaotic at times, but there is a pattern. There is chaos. There is order within the chaos. So just really remembering that as you're moving forward. You cannot fail at your purpose, because your purpose is who you be. And the more that you start to do this work and the more that you clear the distortions, you get to be more aligned with that purpose. And then there's no such thing as failing at your purpose. And then you get to unhook your purpose from the thing you're pursuing. And you get to hold fear of failure as something to work with curiosity, rather than telling you that it's not the thing to be doing. You get to work with it. You see how you get to work with fear of failure in a completely different way. And then we get to use, okay, well, what is that fear? And we get to dive into the shadow. We get to explore the shadow for the wisdom nuggets, the light that it holds when we alchemize it, but we don't lead with it. We don't lead with fear of failure. We don't lead with scarcity or an unworthiness or not enoughness. We dive into those shadows. So we go in and we really get to the root of it. We touch it, the origin point, the truth of it, so that you can alchemize it and come back out in your radiance, come back out with a bit more light to then go out into the world and share it. So the fear of failure is not supposed to hold you back from anything. It's a wisdom nugget for you. So please do not shed tears over a life not lived. Because for one, on your deathbed at the end of it, when you're just reflecting back on the whole journey, that is the point that people so often have more regret over. The life not lived. So please don't let that be you because of the fear of failure, and especially because it's not attached to your purpose or the story that you're telling. Like, take note about the story. So don't shed tears over a life not lived. And then, like, potential trigger warning here, especially because you never did the work to show up for that life that required some dedication and devotion. It required your commitment, and it required your faith, and it required the belief in yourself. So if we can shed tears over, so maybe some end result that we didn't quite hit potentially, but not because we don't want to shed tears because we didn't do the thing. Like, what is the legacy you're creating here? What is the legacy? What is it that you want to carry? What is it you want to hold for the people that come behind you, that witness you in your life? I don't know why this is coming in. It wasn't really part of the thoughts here, but like Vincent van Gogh, I'm pretty sure it was Van Gogh, sold one painting in his lifetime. When he was alive, he sold one painting, and I don't even know like the name of that painting. I don't think it's not one of his well-known pieces. So had he not shown up for it, his purpose was to paint, to express himself that way, and he followed that. Was it always easy? Like, I'm guessing no. And I'm not saying that you're not going to be here to experience the fruits of your labor. I'm not. That's not the case for everybody. But as an example, would it have been better for him to not to live out his purpose and to have done something else that he didn't want to do? Because he would be missing out on his whole legacy, his whole purpose. So don't shed tears around a life not lived. Tune back into the question, like, if I let the fear of failure win, how does that feel? Take that information and then decide what the next step is going to be. Okay. Let me just see where I'm at in my notes here. Okay. I just want to weave back in this piece around patience. I brought in the societal piece, like we always want things now and faster. But if the creation point of what you're desiring is coming from real alignment, it's coming from a heart-centered, somatic desire. It's like, whoa, I don't know why I want this thing. I just really do. Or I can't see the logical path. It doesn't make sense, but this is really what I'm yearning for. If that is the seed point and the creation's coming this way, you know that it's coming up like through the system, and it's creating the opportunity for you to then start showing up and creating the foundational pieces that are required for the execution of it. And we get really wonky with right timing because we're really afraid that the right timing isn't going to happen. Our big moment might not happen, the execution might not happen. And so we fail to show up for all the foundational pieces that are needed in order for that to happen. So sometimes it's like, I want to launch a business, but I don't know how. And then we don't even show up for the foundational pieces of learning how to launch the business, learning how to do the thing. Or I want to be able to, I don't know, dive off of a diving board. But we don't know how to even dive. So we don't want to start by learning how to dive off the side of the pool because we're like, that's boring. I want to go up to the diving board, but we don't have the skill set yet. So we trust. So then we're so, this is a silly example, as in it's like, I don't understand why I'm bringing it through per se, but it's like, so we go onto the diving board right away and then we jump off and we belly flop. And then we're like, see, I can't do the thing because we rushed it. We rushed the process. And rushing it doesn't serve you either because you're not going to have the skill set that is needed or the energetic capacity to hold the thing. You want all this huge success, but your nervous system can't even hold it yet. So you're missing giving the foundational pieces that will bring you the skill set you need and will bring you the expanded capacity to hold the thing. So that, let's say when you're diving off the dive board, you're not having a heart attack because you're actually free falling for whatever the amount of feet it is. So you're building your capacity through the foundational pieces. So stop thinking that the timing is off and just start showing up for the pieces that are required in this present moment, because this present moment is where the creation point of everything is. So you're creating and creating, you're laying the foundation for the next thing. If you don't lay the foundation, nothing can build, nothing can grow. If the soil isn't tilled, if the nutrients aren't there, the creation cycle can't happen. This sounds a bit confronting, but like we need to get over ourselves a little bit and stop thinking that everything needs to happen yesterday and really honor that time and show up with the pieces that we need so that we can actually have a really beautiful foundation for when we hit that milestone. We're like, oh my God, I have the capacity to hold it. I have the skill sets that are required. I've set myself up for success. I am experiencing success because I showed up for myself in that way the whole way through. So right timing in your relationship to right timing, I promise you, the universe will fricking deliver it for you. And on the other side of it, you'll be like, I get it. I see why that was needed. I see why I needed that piece. I see why I needed to heal through that thing. I see why that part didn't quite work because now I got the skill set to hold this piece. On the other side of this all, you will see it. I promise you, to the ability that I am able to promise that. I promise you. On the other side, you will be able to see the why. And what is required now is to lean into trusting the right timing. Fear of failure is not a reason to stop doing anything. Call in your power. Talk to the part of you that's impatient. Talk to the part of you that wants it now. If you need to resource yourself in certain ways while you're making this other plan happen, then do it. Have the conversation with the ego that's like, we have to do this thing so that we can build that thing. And I know we don't want to do it, but it's actually like part of the foundational piece. So let's do the thing. Do what you need to do, but don't not pursue the thing. Change your relationship with right timing. It's not your timeline. The universe is going to deliver you a perfect timeline. So stay in your power, lay the foundation. Because if you don't, what's the alternative? You won't get there. So take the steps that are required to get there. Keep showing up for yourself. When you fall, when you wobble, when you waver, when you need all support, when you need to be reminded, it's all good. We all need those things. Find the thing. It's why mentorship is freaking incredible, because I hold it for you when you forget. I hold it for you while we're taking a pause and wobbling because I know that this is needed in order to get there. I hold it for you while we navigate it. And whether it's me or anybody else, it doesn't matter. Mentorship, support systems, the right friends, the right community, the right counsel. The fear of failure. We're so afraid to fail that we don't even try. We don't even try. We don't build the foundation. And we need to remember that that is required. And then we lead ourselves forward. And that sweet spot, that opening, that portal where all of the pieces come together and you get to have like your pit stop of success while you're going on to the next one, like that happens. And you're like, thank God I didn't give up because I trusted and I had faith. So this is where it comes in is fear. Feel the fear, but keep showing up to your why, keep showing up to your desire. So it's feel the fear and do it anyways, but it's not F fear and bypass fear, because again, that will hold nuggets for you. That will bring, when you dive in and grab those nuggets and those whys, it helps you bring more light to something. But you need to keep showing up. Do the groundwork to prepare yourself. Act as if it's coming, but not just feel as though it's coming and sit there and do nothing. This is like a huge missing piece that I see in a lot of manifestation processes, the aligned action. Act as if. Show up for the next step that's needed. Preservation. So when we're showing up for those things, laying the groundwork, realigning to trust, tuning into that failure as it comes in, that fear of failure, it's like, okay, is this a fear or is this like an indicator that something should pivot? Lean into that imagining that I gave you earlier. And then just be discerning about what your energy is being oriented towards, what's worth committing to, where are you actually putting your energy? Where are you actually putting your energy as you want to create this? Is it going to all of the distractions, all the parts of you that are like, it's not worth it, so I should just like, I don't know, eat all the cakes, do all the things, take us like off the path, whatever it is, depending on what your goals is. If you're wanting to like get into shape, the best shape of your life, or you want to hike Kilimanjaro, but you're like, oh, I can't do that because I'm just a X-year-old person sitting here. So you know what? Just because that, I'm going to go and do this, which completely negates that. Like, where are you putting your energy? Let's become radical, responsible adults here and really be discerning. And then if you're aware that you're putting your energy in the wrong place, don't judge it. Let's explore it, figure out why, so that we can lovingly bring it back up, bring it back. But just be discerning about where your energy is going and what's worth committing to. You're never at zero. You're never starting at zero. You're always building upon everything that you've lived through. You're always building upon whether it was considered something that didn't work, you got information from it. Some other opportunity came in from it. You're always building upon something. So stop telling yourself that you're at zero. And there's already a foundation there. We get to remove foundational pieces that aren't working through the work from like the fear of the past, letting people down, the stories we tell ourselves, letting people go. We're constantly kind of clearing out as we're building. But you're never starting at zero. So we want to be present to fear of failure, but not let it be the guiding force, not let it be the spark of inspiration as to why we're moving. We get to dance with it and take the information that we need from it. So we really want the mastery here becomes the awareness of what needs to be done to make a dream a reality. What do I need to do in this moment? Sometimes that's rest. Sometimes it's show up. Sometimes it's learn something else. Sometimes it's pivot. Sometimes it's call in the troops. Sometimes it's, look at it from a different angle, call in counsel. There can be many things that need to happen to make a dream. It doesn't mean go, 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 do all the time, but it requires something. So paying attention to it. And just knowing that you're setting the stage, the preparation, you're getting ready. And then we have to have the patience to trust that once the stage is set, the timing will unfold just as it needed to serve the highest good. The divine, my eyes twitching. The divine inspiration, the divine timing will come through. Set the stage, show up for it, and you will be supported. Lean into trust, and you will be supported. We let go of the fear of failure to cause you to avoid preparing for receiving the blessing. Don't let fear of failure cause you to not prepare yourself to receive the blessing. Okay? Don't push too fast, too hard against the right timing. And then you haven't fully set yourself up to receive the blessing because you've been moving too quickly and you haven't laid the foundation. Remember, the fear of failure that you can sometimes really feel in the system, yeah, it can be true. Our nervous system can give us information. And sometimes it's just about expanding our capacity to hold that while we walk forward. So fear of failure doesn't mean don't do the thing, and it doesn't mean you are going to fail. That ancestral charge that we carry was life or death, and this is not life or death. Fine, it can feel like it. If we fail, I won't be resisted, I'll lose my house, yada, 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 all those things. It can feel like it, but it's not imminent death. So really just starting to dialogue with the system in a different way. And the tapping exercise that I can give you is going to be really good for that because we're working with the nervous system. We're working with the subconscious mind as we're tapping. So it's a really beautiful exercise. So just to wrap this up, fear of failure is a thing. Sure. And can you hold it and witness it and hold it loosely and walk with it as you continue to create from a different place? You move from a different place and you get to bring this fear of failure along with you for the ride, meeting with it, dialoguing with it, learning from it, but stop making it mean that you're not here to do the thing because it's not the case. It's not the case if it's an aligned, heartfelt, real, desire pulling you forward. You focus on that. You get laser focused on what that feeling is, what living that desire feels like, and you just keep going. You keep going because you're here to experience it. You are here to execute and create the dream life that you desire. And if it doesn't turn out the way that you exactly envision it or want it to, do you want to hold yourself back from pursuing that? I'm pretty confident that answer is no, because you're here and because you're in my world. And I am on pursuit for that. I am pursuing that continuously, the next layer, the next evolution. I'm living out so much of my dream life, but not all of it. And so I keep showing up for it, even when I'm worried that it won't happen. That's why you're here. That's the resonance of what you're attuning to with me. So keep going. Okay, I'll see you in the next module.